Hey guys! So I have one other segment to add to my Jonathan Kellerman book vlog. So before I went into the individual books, I shared some notes that were just from the series as a whole, just some pet peeves and some grievances and some things that I particularly liked. And then I started doing the books, and I realized I had left off a whole section of my notes for the general overall series. So I just wanted to come back and add a second part to that, and then we'll go back into the books themselves. So for those who are just happening upon this video first, it will make little sense, but I'll give you some indication. There's a series of mystery novels that I reread in my downtime. It's my way of dealing with anxiety and decompressing and stress and all that. I reread mystery novels, and it helps me to get through the day. I usually do it right before I go to bed, in addition to like In Line at the Bank and stuff like that. And one of my favorite authors to reread is Jonathan Kellerman, because I really like the characters and the universe that he creates, and I find the books very rereadable, with some exceptions. And the main series of books has a main character named Alex Delaware, who's a child psychologist who also develops an interest in solving crimes, and a police detective, his best friend, named Milo Sturgis, who kind of develops some psychological insight through his friendship with Alex. And here's my remaining notes that I forgot about before, that aren't book-specific. Or some of them are book-specific, but they're just some things I wanted to get off my chest before I started rereading the series. So here we go. There's a book called The Murderer's Daughter that exists in the universe. Alex Delaware is mentioned, and I believe Milo is mentioned, but it is not part of the series that I enjoy. A lot of Kellerman fans don't enjoy it. I do, but I don't like the ending. When it ends, it seems like there's a third of the book yet to come. It's like it ends, and then you expect to turn the page, and there's more book, but there's no more book. Like, he could easily just write the second half of that book, and then that problem would be solved. Okay. There's a series of characters that exist in the Alex Delaware books and in that universe, but also have their own book, Moses and Aaron, which is biblical names. And they play on that in the books. And I love Moses and Aaron. I particularly like the way he writes that relationship. It's so authentic. It's so true. I know people like that. Aaron talks about in his inner monologue investigating the murder of his father, which is one of the books describes it, and it's referenced multiple times, but we don't ever know what happened. And he says one day he'll go back and figure it out. And he's by far a good enough detective to do so, and Moses, I think, as well, and even perhaps Milo could get involved. I would love for Kellerman to write a book where they actually work that case. And that brings me to another thing, because for the purposes of the transition here in this video, I'll point out that Aaron is black, or technically biracial, but he appears to be somewhat dark-skinned. So he appears as just being black, as described in the book. And Moses is white. He's described as looking like a Viking. And they are half-brothers. And this is the note that I wrote. I'll just read it verbatim, because I'm having trouble getting into it otherwise. How is it that sometimes he being Kellerman, can write race and culture with such perfect nuance, and other times it seems like he's never met a non-white person before? And the example that I give, that is, making the transition here in this video, Aaron Fox and Liz Wilkinson. Liz Wilkinson is Moses' girlfriend, who's also black, are so perfectly crafted. I feel like he must know not just people like them, but know those people's cultural and backstory. Like, when I read those characters, I'm like, I know that person. I know them not just in interaction, but I know their family. I know where they came from. Like, those characters are perfectly written, and they're both non-white, and their non-whiteness is an integral part of the character. So I feel like Kellerman has a very astute understanding of race and culture there. But then there are other times when I'm just like, no. And the ones that I have in my notes here, I have, how is it that he only knows Jamaicans named Dejan, or Dejan? I'm not even sure how he wants me to pronounce it. that name keeps coming up for Jamaican characters, and I know plenty of Jamaicans, and I'm aware that that is Jamaican name. I've never met a single one. Like, use a different name. He keeps reusing various names for black incidental characters. Like, like those are the only names that black people can have. And one of them I mentioned in a previous video is Broussard, for a last name, which is technically a Cajun and Creole last name, which is, incidental to black culture, just like Jamaican is, but it's not the same thing. But yeah, I'll point when those things come up, I'm sure I'll point them out because it annoys me every time I read it. And then also, and I mentioned this actually in my video about Over the Edge, which was the last book I completed. Right now I'm reading The Butcher's Theater, which is one of my favorites. Over the Edge is one of my favorites too. But I said that was I mentioned in that video that Kellerman will often use curses and nicknames and slang in such a way that seems out of touch. And I guess in the notes that I made here for the overall series, the example I gave is he always refers to people named Tina. Somebody always calls them Teen. Hey, Teen. And I'm just like, I know lots of Tinas. I've never heard that. That sounds so, like, maybe there's people that do that, but I've never heard it. And it just does not feel true to me. So those are the rest of my overall series notes, that at least for the time being. And I will, like I said, we'll do another video installment when we get to the end of The Butcher's Theater. And I hope you guys are enjoying this video series. I'll make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all that. Thanks for watching.